Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting of council. I'd like to start. Please join me in welcoming our new city manager, Sandy Lee. Sandy, welcome to the city of Temiskaming Shores. Sandy's got lots of experience in the municipal sector, and we're really looking forward, as a team working with Sandy, and Sandy really getting to know our community. She's had a number of visits already to our community. Her son lives here in our community, and really nice to see you start officially with the city yesterday. Would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to thank council.
Awesome, thanks. And the other person here tonight that I'd really like to recognize is Cheryl Gilbert. Cheryl will be retiring from the city after 34 years of service. And, Cheryl's been a face of the community for quite some time. Not only has she worked for the city, had a number of other jobs, but always with a smile on her face. She's somebody who's been well recognized in our community, and I just wanted to say, thank you for your dedication and commitment and all the service to the city, and really looking forward for you to continue to come to the Pool Fitness Center and take advantage of the aqua programs that you put together. So we do have a little gift here for you, and if you would like to come up, we wouldn't mind getting a picture with you and with your recognition. So says 34 years of service presented to Cheryl Gilbert in recognition of her outstanding service and dedication. Okay, I'll start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, specifically the Temiskaming First Nation. We recognize the presence of the Temiskaming First Nation in our community since time immemorial and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift their voice and values. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Good evening, Your Worship. All members are present with the exception of Councillor Ian Graydon, and we'll note that Councillor Dan Dawson is joining virtually this evening.
Thank you. Brings us to item 4, review of revisions or deletions to the agenda. The clerk received 2 items beyond the deadline for agenda submissions that were deemed to be time sensitive for council's consideration. I do have a resolution in front of me, whereas section 36.6B of the procedural bylaw number 2023-022 states, should an item deemed to be time sensitive need to be added to the agenda without advance public notice, such as during the review of revisions or deletions to the agenda, council shall vote to allow such items to be added to the agenda and shall require a majority vote of the members present and voting. Now therefore, Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores, in accordance with Section 36.6B, hereby allows the addition of Section 9, Presentations, Item B, Bill Ramsey, President of the Temiskaming and Northern Ontario Snow Travelers, re a Memorandum of Understanding, Prescribed Snowmobile Trail Land Use Permission, And Section 14, new business, item D, Matthew Baum, Director of Recreation, a verbal update from Miller Paving Limited regarding the Pete's Dam repair projects to be added to the agenda. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Wilson. Second by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion? All in favor? And that motion is carried. Item 5, the approval of the agenda. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved, the City Council approves the agenda as amended. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Whelan, seconded by Councillor Pelletier-Levin. Discussion? All in favor? And that motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature? Seeing none, we don't have any public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes. Brings us to item 8, review and adoption of the council minutes. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that City Council approves the following minutes as printed. A, the regular council meeting held on October the 15th, 2024. B, the committee of the whole meeting held on November the 5th, 2024. And C, the special council meeting held on October the 29th, 2024. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Ducharme. Oh, sorry. Seconded by Councillor Pelletier-Levin. Discussion? All in favor? And that motion is carried. Brings us to item 9, and all of the guests we have here today. Presentations. A, from the Temiskaming Forest Management Corporation, we have Faye Johnson, Board Chair, Jeff Barton, the board member, Mark Stevens, I guess the outgoing General Manager, and we also have Craig Yates, who's going to be the incoming new General Manager. And they're going to give us a presentation on the Temiskaming Forest Management Corporation background and representation. So if you want to step forward to the mic.
Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Jeff Barton.
Sorry, Jeff, if you want to just turn that mic on.
Sorry, I'll try that again. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to attend the meeting of Mayor and Council. My name is Jeff Barton. I'm a board member on Temiskaming Forest Management Corporation. Pleased to introduce part of our team tonight. This subject matter may be new to some of you, and I think it's a little bit more familiar to others, so I'm happy to be part of presenting it. This initiative goes back about 11 years now, almost to the day that the Ministry of Natural Resources had a meeting down in Temiskaming about restructuring the way the Temiskaming Forest would be managed. And over the course of the following about 7 years, our former mayor, Carmen Kidd, as well as a number of representatives from the forest industry and the First Nations and the neighboring communities worked together to come up with a business format or a governance format that would lead to a broader way of governance for the Temiskaming Forest. So this was new and unique to our areas. Many of you are familiar with some of the disputes that have happened over the last 30-ish years on that forest. But we're pleased that we worked through a number of those and got to a format that was supported by all of those groups to the point that we were recognized and designated as one of 2 Crown agencies, local forest management corporations in the province. So I'm happy to introduce a couple of key people of our team. Jeff, in his opening, referenced Faye Johnson. Faye is the chair of our board of directors. Faye is a long time, was in previous parts of her career, a resident of Englehart and woodlands manager for Grant Forest Products. Went on to work with the province at the Ministry of Northern Development and Mines, and then following retirement came to the board as the chair. Mark Stevens, our current, I think I can still say current, general manager, has a long history in the Temiskaming area as a manager of Liskard Lumber in earlier parts of his career, and then as manager of the Elk Lake Planing Mill. Went out west for a portion of his career, and then we were fortunate that he came back and worked with the Temiskaming Forest Management Corporation. Beside him, Craig Yates is our brand new general manager. Craig also has a long history in the area with lots of family roots in the Temiskaming area. And next to him, Glenn McDonald, who's been working with us as our office administrator, and I think you get a lot of variety thrown at you, from day to day, Glenn. So I'm pleased to introduce all of those folks. Mark will go into some detail in his presentation, and I think Faye has some opening words as well. So thank you again for the opportunity, and I guess before I pass that along, I want to say thank you for your endorsement. I sit on the board as one of the reps carrying the torch for the municipalities. Mark will talk a little bit about the way the board is structured, but the City of Temiskaming Shores endorsed me 3 years ago to sit in that role of the board. I've worked through the first term, and we're in the process of going into the second term for board members. So thank you for your endorsement, and I look forward to working with you over the coming future.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you, Mayor, councillors, for letting me speak. Jeff only went back 11 years. I'm going to go back 150 years. So if you want to move to the next slide, because you really need to understand why this project, your project, not my project, came to be. So if you think back 150 years or so, you probably know that Ontario is mostly Crown land. So Crown land, it's not private land, and it's managed on behalf of Ontarians like yourself by people like me. It's been that way since the beginning of time. But about 150 years ago, you can imagine there was not much up here, and the Ontario government wasn't able to collect income tax. The only way they could get taxes was from the extraction of the natural resources, timber included. So they thought, hey, there's a whole opportunity in Northern Ontario. Those Americans are starting pulp and paper mills. Let's see if we can entice them to come north. And they did. So the deal was, you come up here and you build a mill. Now remember, there were no towns. You build a mill, you get 500 people to move to where your mill is, build a town, and we will give you a tract of land. We will give you tenure and enough land to keep your mill going. And why did you need tenure? To be able to get the loans to build the mill. So I handed you all a map. This map is a patchwork of the management units in Ontario. It all started 150 years ago. So fast forward, and it's now the 80s, and the government says, we want to stop doing. So for example, I was a tree planter, my paycheck said M&R. They wanted to get out of that, so they wanted to get out of tree planting, they wanted to get out of road building, they wanted to get out of everything except administration. So they went to the forest industry, and these pulp and paper companies had lots of people working with them, lots of money, lots of infrastructure, and they said, do you mind taking over the day-to-day, and we will just set policy, etc. That was the 80s, and the forest industry said, sure, we'll do that for you. Well, they managed to change the tenure, and when I say tenure, I don't mean ownership. It's sort of like a long-term lease, that's the way you should think of it. They managed to change it right across Ontario, except in one place, and that was Temiskaming. So why was that? Well, it was mostly, so go back to 1996, next slide please. When all of these changes were happening, the forest industry wanted to amalgamate Temiskaming with another management unit to make it more cost-effective. The First Nations said, this is our traditional territory, documented, and it's not happening. So they wouldn't allow it to happen, and it stayed as the only management unit that was managed by the Crown for about 15 years. We all remember the downturn of 2008. That was a huge downturn, and if you look at this map, you can see in Ontario we went from harvesting almost 25 million cubic meters to 10. we lost half of our industry. But, as I said earlier, the Crown had given the rights to harvest and sell wood to these pulp and paper mills. So a lot of mayors in Northern Ontario were very upset because although their mills shut down, the wood was still locked up. And they now, together with the First Nations, went to the Ontario government and said, something needs to change here. Lo and behold, the local forest management corporations were formed. Next slide, please. So this was highly contentious with the forest industry because it was a different way of managing that they felt wasn't as secure. It's a Crown agency. So instead of the ownership or the rights to manage being with the forest industry, it's now an independent organization that's a Crown agency. It's local, and it includes the First Nations as well as local communities. The difference that made it feasible for Temiskaming at that time, when for 25 years it wasn't feasible, was the fact that the Crown allowed us to retain the Crown stumpage. So everywhere else in the province, the stumpage goes to downtown for hospitals and a whole bunch of other things. We get to retain our stumpage, and suddenly it became more cost-effective than it ever had been before. So your predecessor and others started to lobby to have a local forest management corporation in Temiskaming. There were two established. Next slide, please. The first one was established, the green dot, or the green square around Pick Forest. That was now Winganokama, established over 10 years ago when the Buchanan companies basically went bankrupt and walked away. So 10 years later, Temiskaming was established after a lot of lobbying. That's why I say it's your initiative, not our initiative. You've just hired us to run it as volunteers. Good for you. So we have a board. Next slide. The advisory committee that was set up to negotiate this, Jeff was a member of it, decided that, or asked government if they could have 6 reserve seats. So the reserve seats would be one for the town of Temiskaming, 1 seat, Jeff, for Elk Lake, Latchford, and Temiskaming Shores, 1 seat for Temiskaming First Nations, another seat for Temiskaming rotation with Matachewan. They do 3 years each, and then 2 for the forest industry. But the forest industry members could not be somebody from the local forest industry because that would be a conflict of interest. So we have 2 gentlemen, both retired. One worked north of here, one worked south of here. Between them, they probably have 80 years of experience in forestry. And then 2 at-large members, myself and Steve Shears. So we are the organization. We're just in the process of getting reappointed. Next slide, please. The one thing that we have done is develop a strategic plan, and that's in front of you. So Mark is going to talk to you a bit more about the details of the last 3 years getting this corporation set up. As you can imagine, there's a level of complexity involved, but for the most part, we're through our startup and we're ready to really start to make a difference in economic development. Next slide. So this is our strategic plan. So I will pass it over to Mark, and he will get into some of the details.
Thanks, Faye. Mr. Mayor, councillors, thank you for your time this evening. Faye's covered a whole lot of history in a real short period of time, but it's important to know that history. And a couple key things just to repeat. The difference about Temiskaming Forest Management Corporation and Temiskaming Forest, as Faye said, the timber revenues stay here. They don't go to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. They stay here to be invested back into this area, so that's crucial. Secondly, as Jeff mentioned, Temiskaming Shores, together with Latchford and Elk Lake and Temiskaming, were communities that led to the creation of TFMC. And we very much want to make sure that we serve your interests. And tonight, as part of our presentation to you, is to help you understand what we do, why we do it, and how we can work together. And interestingly, our incoming general manager knows James Franks quite well already. And so that connection hopefully will help bear fruit in terms of how TFMC and the Temiskaming Forest can help Temiskaming Shores. Because as you saw within the map that was on the screen earlier, Temiskaming Shores, as much as it's within the traditional territory of Temiskaming First Nation, it's within the boundaries of the Temiskaming Forest. And I understand that recently many of you attended a forestry field trip in which you went to some mills and forestry operations, and that was within the Temiskaming Forest, which is just north of here, and that's convenient for sure. But we're proud to be part of the Temiskaming Forest, just to the south of Temiskaming. So what does TFMC do? And I can put that into two buckets. We manage the forest. We oversee the harvesting, the utilization of the timber, where it goes, who does it. That involves the planning, the working with the other interest groups, the ATVers and snowmobilers, and many others. We then want to make sure we renew the forest, so we oversee that. We're a small organization. There's myself going to be replaced by Craig, Glenn, and Gerard Arsenault. The reason we get by with a small group is at the outset of a brand new corporation, rather than hire a bunch of staff and everyone be green all at once, the decision was made to hire First Resource Management Group as a forest service provider. So you have a lot of local input already. We're utilizing a significant forest management consultant company that's based here in Temiskaming Shores. The 3 employees who now work in Temiskaming don't live with M&R in North Bay, but they reside here in Temiskaming. Craig's going to live in Temiskaming, but that's okay. So we're trying to contribute to the local economy, and through our economic diversification, we're going to provide more benefit. So 2 buckets. One is we manage the forest like everyone else does in the forestry world, and secondly, as Faye highlighted, as a local forest management corporation, legislated through the Ontario Forest Tenure Modernization Act, we have other mandates to create jobs and economic development for First Nations and for communities. So we'll go to the next slide, please, Logan. On the harvesting side, we have the big names that you know as major operators on the Temiskaming Forest: Interfor, Georgia Pacific, Goulard Lumber. Temiskaming Lands and Resources Corporation is owned by Temiskaming First Nation, so Temiskaming First Nation is directly involved in the operations of the Temiskaming Forest, and Alex Welch Logging. Alex has been around for about 150 years, I think. But he's a key operator, a small operator, but a key operator. So that's the harvesting side. On the forest renewal side, that's a photograph of the Temiskaming crew. So as much as they're an operator in the forest harvesting timber, they also provide contract support for planting of trees and tending our forests. And this was a milestone back in 2003, where for the first time in the Temiskaming Forest history, we actually planted over 1 million trees in 1 year. And that's a reflection of the harvest levels that's been occurring. So harvesting, planning, renewal, supporting all forest management activities. Some of the things our harvesters do is, and we do, and First Resource Management Group does, is we protect other values. So on the left, you can't quite really tell, but that's a stick nest, a bird of prey. And that was discovered during our harvesting operation, and things have evolved a lot. And the loggers sometimes get a bad rap, but they recognized that and they protected that. A temporary bridge over a creek in Acadia Township, the riprap that's hauled from a long distance to make sure the water is protected, and the bridge, instead of how sometimes creeks used to get forded, protecting the environment. Next slide, please. Another water quality issue at Aston Creek crossing on the Red Squirrel Road. There was a culvert there. It was relatively solid, but it was perched. Ecom in the past year replaced that culvert to improve the fish habitat at that location, as well as when they're operating on the Red Squirrel Road. Great communications. They provide a radio to Camp Wanapate. They put signage up. Safety on the road, paramount. Please go ahead, Logan. Our Temiskaming crew, as much as they plant trees, they're out there thinning the pre-commercial thinning and cleaning. Next one. We participate as much as we can in other local events up at the Matachewan First Nation. They hosted a mining and forestry expo. They weren't quite sure how well that would work and what would happen for the first effort. They did a great job, and we were there to support them in that. Inventory, forest inventory, you have to know your inventory, and so we spend time and money on that. Working with the cottagers on the left, the folks at Castle and adjoining Lakes Association, CALA, were concerned about a planned operation that we had at the south end of Rabbit Lake. In the middle of the winter, got out together, talked about what we're doing, and frankly, we got a thank you email at the end of it all saying, that turned out real good. Now, we're fortunate that in some of our cuts, shelterwood cuts and white pine, the management is different than in the boreal forest. But it's great to get support for the operations. And interactions. On the right is Inter4 interacting with Temiskaming First Nations to validate whether or not there is cultural and heritage values at a specific site. So that's the basic bucket that everyone does. And you saw some of that when you went out on your tour recently. The other thing we do, as I talked about, is the economic development. So we're still in our early stages of getting this to work. But at the present time, we have 3 programs that are open to public participation. Scholarships and workforce development training for those that need it in the forest industry. Events and sponsorships. We've sponsored powwows. We've sponsored Canada Day celebrations. And more recently, our partnership program. If someone has a great idea that needs some help, we're not going to do it for them, but we'll do it with them. And we'll support with some funding up to $10,000 to support local projects or forest-related projects. The big one is yet to come. The board is presently in the development of our 4th program, and that's the board initiative. So our board members, the greater the value of the project, the more the board gets involved. They're going to be overseeing the major development of our economic development programs. And we're just working out the big stuff. We got the 3 small programs in place, and we're already getting public applications. So we're just starting to promote this with the events and sponsorship program up to $2,000 per shot. And again, our intent is to help people and incent their good ideas, but not to continually sustain them. If it's something that needs some seed money, we're happy to participate in that regard. The scholarship and workforce program, our first year we only had 1 applicant, a girl from, Brandon Brock, from the First Nations, and he went to school for Canada's environmental technician program. Second year we got 2 applicants, one from Twin Lakes, and it's slipping me. This year we had 3 applicants, so small numbers but great growth. So hopefully we're going to continue to see that scholarship program take off, along with the workforce training program. The partnership program, we've just had 1 application recently. The first one we received, and we're presently reviewing that. And we're glad to be able to support these kinds of initiatives. The applicant that we just had, that we're presently considering, was telling me the other day that other people in the community have donated and helped out, but they don't want it known. And that's because a lot of businesses that get inundated with requests, right? And you can understand that. And I said to him, we're the opposite. We want those requests. We want to develop these programs to use the money that we have available to put back into the communities and the whole Temiskaming area. So hopefully you're going to see this grow, particularly when the board initiatives program gets up and running. So that's a quick summation of what we do. Forest management, and we hope we do a good job. We like to think we do. And economic development, which is really just getting started. But again, it's thanks to the support of Temiskaming Shores and the other communities that have helped TFMC get founded, and we look forward to working with you as we go forward with these programs. So I think that's my last slide, so thank you for your time, and certainly questions, Faye, Jeff, or I, or even Craig might be pleased to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you. So thanks, Jeff, Mark, Faye, for your presentations, and thanks also to Craig and Glenn for coming to support. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, just quickly, thanks for the presentation. Are you in constant discussions with HFIA? Yeah, Ontario Forest Industry Alliance.
Yes.
I see you got quite a few references to them. Their recommendations to the Minister of Finance in your presentation that was provided to council. So are you in regular discussions with them?
We're a member and we do correspond, but we're a small member. But is there...
Okay, no, I meet with Ian done quite often, and
Good,
I'm just
good.
wondering how much of his information is locally retrieved, so.
They engage all of their members when they want input, so we have the opportunity. Some of the issues they talk about are over our heads, and we don't get involved with everything, but we do have the opportunity to contribute. Ian does a really good job with
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Well, thanks so much for the presentation. Also, thanks for the forestry tour. And I think forestry plays such a vital impact on our local economy. So we appreciate, all the work you guys put into it. For Temiskaming Shores, I think the information you shared tonight is something that isn't always necessarily seen in the community. So thanks again, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, this takes us to item B. And Bill Ramsey, President of the Temiskaming and Northern Ontario Snow Travelers, a memorandum of understanding, prescribed snowmobile trail land use permission. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores delegates authority to the Mayor and Clerk to execute the memorandum of understanding between the City of Temiskaming Shores and the Temiskaming and Northern Ontario Snow Travelers, authorizing land use for the prescribed snowmobile trails for a 10-year term, effective November the 1st, 2024 to April 30th, 2035, and further, the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to confirm the MOU at the December 17th, 2024 regular Council meeting. Can I get a mover, please? This is Councillor Whelan. Seconded by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion?
Just like to make everybody aware of paragraph 4. That's the one that gets the city covered by our $15 million liability insurance. Very few other groups offer you for something that great. It was funny, we were updating our agreements and we realized that they were with Hilleberry and New Liskeard and the old Tri-Town Snow Travelers. So rather than uploading the out-of-date agreements, I got a hold of Logan and I'm here. We have to have them in place by December 1st, or when the map for the snowmobile clubs goes live, our trails show is missing. So we're down to about 20 landowners left, Temiskaming Shores being one of them. We should have all of our trails in place by the December 1st deadline, and I've had a great crew working with me on that, so it's been excellent. It's been a challenge. We've put over 300 hours into getting it done. We will have new trails, and I will be talking to Logan and James Franks because we may need some new signage. The trail's not going to come up through Cobalt and Haleberry anymore. It's going to go through First Brook and in that way. We just couldn't find all of the missing American landowners in South Temiskaming Shores. I have no idea why anybody owns those lots. There's no access to them. There's nobody been in them for years, but they seem to own them and pay their taxes. I was hoping that the taxes were due and Logan could take them back, but that didn't happen. So our main area, we of course go through La Rox Field, but we also go through the baseball diamond. It's been there for years. These are not new trails. These are everything we're asking for has been in place the whole time I've been involved with the club. There's odd little bits of property that Temiskaming Shores owns in the middle of nowhere. This is just one map. There's about 4 maps attached. So there, we're coming, some of the stuff is highlighted we're not using, but that's out by Fountain Tire, and some of that belongs to Temiskaming Shores, and some to our good friend Eric Campsell, who's been around almost as long as the city. And so the yellow ones to the bottom right are not included. I'm not even sure what they are. It's only where we have a trail. So we're going through there. That one we don't need. That's my favorite spot, the marina. We don't have a trail across it anymore. It came up because our trail goes down the lake, and that's why it came up. Okay, so that's what we're here about, and I hope you'll pass this motion and we'll be able to have our trails open. And I'd like to welcome Sandra Lee, who is fortunately not my senior real estate clerk. When I heard the announcement, I was, oh man. And then it said she was from Barrie, and I was okay. And these guys, by the way, they're okay. I sit on a local citizens committee. I'm kind of the overwatch. I keep an eye on them for us.
I thought they were okay, but when you're starting to reference support for them, Bill, I'm getting a little concerned now.
They paid me.
Perfect.
All right, thank you very much. That's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Thanks for your presentation, Bill. Does anybody have any questions for Bill? Councillor Whalen?
So just under changes that's taken place with your club, will we require another one of these for ATVs, Bill, or?
The ATV Club is trying to avoid any private property. We're just running on roads in Temiskaming Shore. So we already have the bylaw in place. And by the way, thank you for all your support on that, but Logan and I found a newer bylaw that gave us all those roads already. So that was a great chat I had that night. But so no, the ATVs, we're going to run roads only. And the only road we're actually running in Temiskaming Shores right now is Rockley, but we're looking at maybe coming in golf course so the hotels can be accessed to.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. It's interesting you mentioned those pieces of land that are owned by Americans, and maybe we can find a lawyer that can help us get those or something.
There's one guy in Honduras.
Oh, really? Okay.
Owns 3 sections down there. I think they're 340s.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
120 acres of really good jack pine land.
Okay.
These guys would
Forest
like to get at it.
Right. But that wasn't my question. My question was, this is really the first time we've seen this, that I've seen this memorandum of understanding. Is that insurance piece new or it's just increased?
It used to be 10 million.
Yeah, okay. And is there anything else in this that has?
No, there's really, so it does require us to maintain the trails.
Yeah.
It says we're only going to use them in the winter seasons for snowmobiling, which makes sense. So because the ATV club, some of them are year-round. Of course, ours isn't because I wanted to close for the winter. But it says that when there's no snow cover, we may go on the land to maintain it. And the one thing, by the way, is on La Roque's Field. I don't know if it's still called that. We have spoken to the Métis group that use it, so they're well aware that we're passing through, and we just make sure we go around them. I guess they have a lease, or are they just borrowing the land?
Yeah, they have a lease.
Yeah.
And we also, talk to them just to make sure that the picnic tables and everything are all put by the shelters, and so there isn't any hidden
Our people tend to use it. I think they think it's town property, and so we haven't dissuaded them that, but we've had no complaints. The Métis people would have contacted me. I say people because I can't remember who's in charge.
Yeah, perfect. Any other questions? Seeing none, we do have a resolution in front of us. All in favor? And that motion is carried.
And an endorsement for snow would also be welcome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Takes us to item 10, correspondence and communication. 10A, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities. Read the resolution of support for the Ontario's forest industry in the 2025 Ontario budget that was received for information. B, from Derek Mundell, the Chair of the District of Temiskaming Social Services Administration Board. Read the District of Temiskaming Social Services Administration Board 2024 refund that was received for information. The Town of Blue Mountains, read the resolution of support for the establishment of an Ontario Rural Road Safety Program that was received for information. Item D, from the Earlton-Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority, read the financials for September 2024 that was received for information. Item E, the Honourable Stephen Leck, the Minister from Ministry of Energy and Electrification, read the Ontario's Affordable Energy Future, the pressing case for more power that was received for information. F, from Tom Marakis, the Mayor of the Town of Aurora, read the resolution of support for fair share, sustainable and predictable funding for municipal infrastructure that was received for information. Item G, from the Temiskaming Health Unit, the municipal appointees for the new Board of Health. And that is a reference, there's a motion presented under Section 14 under New Business. Item H, from Danielle Manton, the City Clerk for the City of Cambridge. Read the resolution of support for homelessness, mental health, safety, and addiction crisis that was received for information. Item I, from Derek Mundell, the Reeve, the Township of Van Trell. Read the replacement of highway signs, provincial and secondary highways, northeastern Ontario, that was received for information. And item J from the Township of Horton, read the resolution of support for sustainable funding for Ontario Provincial Police. And that was received for information. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores agrees to deal with communication items 10A through J in accordance with the agenda of references. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Whalen, seconded by Councillor Peltier-Leving. Discussion? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, the item F from Tom Rakas, we'll be dealing with that at the AMO Executive next week. Previous City Council did support a resolution for predictable funding through the GST, so that may be coming back. I won't ask for it to come back right now, but it will probably hit the table again, so thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Councillor Peltier-Leving?
If we could bring back item C about
Establishment of the Ontario Road Safety Program?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, item A, that's the Phenom resolution. Councillor Whalen, we can bring that back for our own resolution as well, if we bring that back? To support that?
If you want to support it individually, yeah, but it was supported as a district at Temiskaming through TMMA as well.
Okay, then that's fine. We don't need to bring that back then, but...
Anybody else? And I can't see Dan online. I don't know if, does Dan have any? No?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Okay, we do have a resolution in front of us. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Takes us to item 11, Committees of Council, Community and Regional. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes from the District of Temiskaming Social Services Administration Board meetings held on July the 17th, 2024, September the 18th, 2024, and October the 16th, 2024. B, the minutes from the Earlton Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority meeting held on September the 19th, 2024. And C, the minutes from the Temiskaming Shores Public Library Board meeting held on September the 25th, 2024. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Takes us to item 12, reports by members of council. Does anybody have any reports? Councillor Wilson? Or, sorry, Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, the Rock on Canada Day Committee is waiting for, the city's waiting to hear back from them to set up the first joint meeting to deal with our agreement and their requests for space. At this time, they've the day that they opened up the applications for RV sites and camping sites, they sold 12 on day one, and the first site is completely filled up now, so it's looking good that way. The other thing I wanted to mention for council and staff's benefit is Ida Hilson has moved away. She's moved to Milton to be closer to her family. Those of you that know Ida will often receive emails from her, and Ida was a strong supporter of the Transit Committee. She complained when the opportunity arose, but she was always a strong supporter. And so all the best to Ida. She just wanted to pass on the best to staff and council. So if you're wondering why the correspondence has stopped, that's why.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, that takes us to item 13, notice of motions. Seeing none, brings us to new business, 14A. Resolution of support, the town of Brantford West Willambury, Ontario Deposit Return Program. And this is a follow-up from the correspondence from our October 15th, 2024 regular council meeting. I do have a resolution in front of me. Whereas Council of the Town of Brantford West Gwillimbury discussed Ontario's Deposit Return Program, and whereas the Ontario Deposit Return Program has successfully incentivized the recycling of alcoholic beverage containers, resulting in the removal of over 204,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions, and whereas the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks highlighted in their June 2023 letter that they are considering the adoption of a deposit and return system for non-alcoholic beverages, which presents a unique opportunity to further promote recycling, reduce litter, and encourage sustainable practices among consumers. Be it resolved that the Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby supports the Town of Brantford West Gwillimbury's endorsement for the expansion of the Ontario Deposit Return Program to include non-alcoholic beverage containers, to enhance environmental stewardship, and to foster a culture of sustainability. And further, that a copy of this resolution be circulated to the Honourable Andrea Kanjan, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Honourable Peter Bethenfalvey, the Minister of Finance, the MPP Sandy Shaw, Opposition Environment, Conservation and Parks critic John Vantoff, MPP Temiskaming Cochrane, and the Town of Brantford West Gwillimbury. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Wilson. Seconded by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion? All in favor? And that motion is carried. Takes us to item B, resolution of support the Township of Springwater, AMO, and OMA Joint Health Resolution Campaign. And again, this is correspondence as a follow-up from October 15th, 2024 regular council meeting. I do have a resolution in front of me, whereas Council of the Township of Springwater adopted a resolution regarding the AMO and OMA Joint Health Resolution Campaign at their regular meeting on October the 2nd, 2024. And whereas the state of health care in Ontario is in crisis, with 2.5 million Ontarians lacking access to a family doctor, emergency room closures across the province, patients being derostered, and 40% of the family doctors considering retirement over the next 5 years. And where it has become increasingly challenging to attract and retain an adequate healthcare workforce throughout the health sector across Ontario, and whereas Ontario municipal governments play an integral role in the healthcare systems through responsibilities in public health, long-term care, and paramedicine, and whereas the percentage of family physicians practicing comprehensive family medicine has declined from 77% in 2008 to 65% in 2022. And whereas per capita healthcare spending in Ontario was the lowest of all provinces in Canada, and whereas a robust workforce developed through a provincial sector-wide health human resources strategy would significantly improve access to health services across the province, and whereas these cracks in Ontario's healthcare system are impacting economic development, health, and well-being at the local level, and whereas in response, the Ontario Medical Association and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario are working collaboratively to advocate for a better healthcare system for Ontario residents and communities. Be it resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby supports the Township of Springwater's call on the Province of Ontario to fund healthcare appropriately and ensure every Ontarian has access to physician care. And further, that a copy of the resolution be circulated to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Doug Downey, Attorney General of Ontario, the Honourable Sylvia Jones, the Minister of Health, John Vantoff, MPP, Temiskaming Cochrane, the Ontario Medical Association, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Township of Springwater. Can I get a mover, please? This is Councillor Whalen, seconded by Councillor Peltier-Levin. Discussion? All in favor? The motion is carried. Takes us to item C, amendment to bylaw number 2022-167, council committees and council representatives to boards and committees for the November 15th, 2022 to November 14th, 2026 term of council. I I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved, the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend bylaw number 2022-167 for the appointment council representatives to boards and committees for the November 15th, 2022 to November 14th, 2026 terms of council, to update the Temiskaming Health Unit Board of Health to the Board of Health for Northeastern Health Unit effective Jan 1, 2025, and to remove the appointment of former Councillor Jesse Foley with the appointment of Councillor Dan Dawson on the Age-Friendly Committee, the Climate Change Committee, and the District of Temiskaming Social Services Administrative Board effective immediately. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Wilson. Second by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion? So just maybe I want to speak about the health unit. Appointments. Right now, the Temiskaming Health Unit and the Porcupine Health Unit have not received a decision from the province yet to form the new volunteered board. However, through discussions with the ministry, they're under time constraints, and they do want to have this motion passed and ready to go. The expectation is that ministry approval will be coming in the not-so-distant future. January 1st is coming very fast. And the dates have come and gone with regards to when they were expecting the approval, to move forward. We're just talking about, the health units with the Porcupine and Temiskaming health units with their volunteer merger, but there's 5 across the province, and they're all in the same situation right now. So everybody is moving forward with appointing folks to those boards. We did have 3 members that were on the Temiskaming Health Unit before. That is being reduced to 2 with the new board structure, and with our 3rd member had resigned from council and resigned from the health unit board. We did not replace anybody at that time, so we're just taking our 2 members and moving them forward with the new board. Okay. Anybody have any questions with regards to those? No. We do have a resolution in front of us. All in favor? That motion is carried. Takes us to item D, Pete's Dam Repair Project, a verbal update from the Director of Recreation, Matt Baum. I do have a resolution in front of us. Be it resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby accepts the Pete's Dam Repair Project verbal update for information purposes. Can I get a mover, please? Sorry. Councillor Ducharme, seconded by Councillor Wilson. Discussion, Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. The city's been working with Miller Group on the rehabilitation of the Peace Dam Bridge that was caused, due to erosion caused by spring storms. I received an update from our contractor on Friday, which is why this didn't make it into your package ahead of time. The work originally was approved through council by a sole source proposal outlined in report RS 017-2024 and received at your August 13th meeting. The work was approved on a time and material basis at an upset limit of $300,000. As part of that report, staff noted that council would be updated at the $150,000 threshold to ensure transparent progress and on this unexpected expense. So Miller Group has been working on the project since October the 7th, making the necessary repairs to the pedestrian bridge. Work on the main pedestrian bridge was completed on October the 30th, with remedial trail work continuing since that date. In conjunction with the project manager on site, staff approved additional work on 4 other pedestrian bridges and culverts on the A Trail to mitigate against further water and erosion damage that was noticed since the project began. As of November 15th, when I received the update from the contractor, the city has incurred a cost of $168,480.14 plus non-refundable HST, with the only portions of work to be completed still are approximately 300 meters of remedial trail work, with no other bridge work to be completed. The project is expected to be completed by the end of this week, and we'll provide a full update once that has been completed. I have a meeting on Thursday to go over the final result as well as the demobilization plan, so all is on track as I stated here. Thank you.
Thanks for your update, Matt. Does anybody have any questions for Matt? So great news, we get some additional work done. We're still under budget and should be ready to be usable very shortly. So thanks so much for your update. So we do have a resolution in front of us. All in favor? The motion is carried. Item 15, bylaws. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2024-130, being a bylaw to appoint Sandra Lee as city manager for the city of Temiskaming Shores. Bylaw number 2024-131, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy chief building official, Francis Rivard. B, bylaw number 2024-132, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-103, to enter into an agreement with Fippen Waste Management Limited for the collection, removal, and disposal of refuse recyclable materials for the operation and maintenance of the currently operated municipal landfill site and for the operation and maintenance of the municipal spoke transfer station operations. Bylaw number 2024-133, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Fippen Waste Management for the lease of the property located at 547 Bar Drive. That's the spoke transfer station. Bylaw number 2024-134, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2006-022 as amended, being a bylaw to appoint a drainage superintendent pursuant to the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, remuneration increase. Bylaw number 2024-135, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Minister of the Solicitor General on behalf of the Ontario Provincial Police for the provision of primary public safety answering point services for the City of Temiskaming Shores. Bylaw number 2024-136, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan control agreement with 284-4371 Ontario Inc., Abdul Khalik. Bylaw number 2024-137, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2022-167 to appoint a deputy mayor, council committees, and council representatives to boards and committees for the November 15th, 2022 to November 14th, 2026 term of council. That was for the Board of Health, Age Friendly, and Climate Change and DSAB. Be hereby introduced, given first, second, and third, and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed there too. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Whalen, seconded by Councillor Pelche-Living. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Brings us to item 16, schedule of council meetings. We have a committee of the whole meeting scheduled for the December the 3rd, 2024, starting at 3 p.m. And B, we have a regular council meeting scheduled for the December the 17th, 2024, starting at 6 p.m. Takes us to our question and answer period. Does anybody have any questions for council tonight? Seeing none. Takes us to confirming bylaw. I do have a resolution in front of us. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2024-138, being a bylaw to confirm certain proceedings of council of the Corporation of the City of Temiskaming Shores for the special meeting held on October the 29th, 2024, for the Committee of the Whole meeting on November the 5th, 2024, and for the regular meeting on November the 19th, 2024, be hereby introduced and given first, second, and third, and final reading, and be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed there too. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Wilson. Seconded by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Takes us to item 20, adjournment. I do have a resolution. Be it resolved, the council hereby adjourns its meeting at 6:56. Dan, will you move that?
Certainly.
Thanks, Councillor Dawson. Can I get a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Pelche-Living. Discussion? All in favor? And we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
you.